Hey everybody, James from Party Time Brewing. Today we're going to try to make a beer using equipment that you may or may not have kicking around the house. It's real quick, it's real easy, and it may or may not work. Find out by the end of the video. Anyway, if you like what you see, give it a like. If you want to subscribe, go ahead.
Party time brews. This song ain't no good, but we got nothing to lose. Party time brews. Here's another brewing clip. You can watch it if you choose.
Let's start with the obvious. Fill up a pot with water. We're doing more or less a raw batch here, but we still need to do a boil in order to get those sweet alpha acids out of the hops. Fill the pot and start heating it up. While you're heating it up, clean out your mash tun if you haven't done it already. My mash tun here is a cheap Coleman thermos that can be found at a lot of thrift stores, or just go grab one new for probably under about 10 bucks. This one has a 1.9 liter capacity. Now you're going to watch start heating the strike water. This pot was kind of motivation for trying this quickie brew. The pot was only 35 bucks from Costco and can be set to temperature. I set this to 70 degrees and went back to waiting. By this time the water had started to boil, so I measured out 5 grams of hops and put it into the pot. The strike water was also ready at this point, so I did my tiny dough in. I dumped the 250 grams of grain in, poured the water on top, then sealed the lid and set my timer for 30 minutes. I also let the hops boil for this full 30 minutes in order to get the most alpha acids out of the hops. Another round of the waiting game, another chance to clean. I used a 2-liter flask to ferment with. I don't have anything fancy set up with the tiny mash tun, so I just filtered it with a fine-ish strainer. You could use a cheesecloth to strain if you got one kicking around. Pour the strain wort into the flask and don't forget to chill it down. I forgot to chill it down and ended up pitching my yeast at around 40 degrees, which coincidentally happens to be the exact temperature that kills the yeast. Needless to say, my fermentation didn't take off right away. Some of the yeast survived, and I didn't actually notice any activity in the flask till a few days later. For this batch, the starting gravity was fairly low, so I'll have to just call this a session ale because it began at about 10:35. I pitched a few teaspoons of US-05 and set it in the closet to ferment.
So we've had her put away for a little while. I kind of forgot about it and left it down there for probably a couple months. You don't really need to do it that long. 8 or 10 days is probably more than enough to get this going, but as you can see, looks like it fermented a bit. Hard to say. We'll check the gravity right now and we will see how it does. Does. We'll see how it does. It actually finished out with 1.00 specific gravity. The refractometer showed 1.07 or 1.007, and the actual one is 1.000. which gives us a 0.35 or 0.035 drop in the alcohol content, which is this much alcohol. This amount of beer is not gonna do the trick if you're looking for just getting drunk, but it will do the trick if you're looking to just make one all grain beer. So now it's time to carbonate it and see how it goes. What I got today is, I kind of lost my plastic beer bottle. I had a plastic PET beer bottle that I used the carbonation cap on, but I couldn't find it. So I'm gonna try to use a Pepsi bottle to carbonate this one. A little bit cheaper, you probably have them kicking around. Hopefully it doesn't leave too much of a Pepsi smell or taste in the beer, but really I just wanna see if this beer carbonates well and how it tastes the finished product. I had a little taste of the wort. Feels like there might be a little bit off flavors in there, but that could just be a little bit due to sloppy practice. But it didn't taste too bad, so I'm curious to see how it's gonna taste carbonated and cold. It's still warm, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of an initial carbonation, throw it in the fridge, and then take it out once it's cold. Give it a little more carbonation, let it settle, and then pour a glass and see how it goes. Wish me luck. Once you have it hooked up, just give it a good little shake. And once that's all shaken up, you have about 20 PSI in here. I'm just gonna unhook it. And since it's not cold yet, I'm gonna put it in the fridge to get cold. Put it there for, well, until it's cold, maybe about an hour, and then I'll try to give it a little bit more forced carbonation, and then I'll take the top off. Okay, so we've carbonated it overnight in the trusty soda bottle. She should have a little bit of carbonation. Let's find out. If it doesn't work, I will try it again. See if this explodes on me. Maybe release a bit of the pressure at first. Pressure's gone. She has a few bubbles. Let's give it a shot. Nothing like pouring a beer from a pop bottle. Doesn't seem too bad. She has a little bit of head on there. She's kind of foaming like a pop, so I don't think the head retention will be there too long. Not the clearest beer I've ever seen, and she's kind of a really light haze. Let's give her a smell. Initial impressions, there is nothing good about this beer. Has the carbonation, looks kind of like a beer, but I don't think it's gonna taste that good. Let's find out. Dive in there again. It has pretty much the exact same smell as the batch I decided to casually dump away because it didn't work. Yeah, that batch was really good as well. Anyway, let's give this a shot. Has, right off the bat, it has a fairly strong hop bitterness. Possibly did the overkill when I boiled the hops in the pot on the original try. Maybe I should go for something a little bit lighter next time, or lighter on the hops. Let's try again. I didn't get much off flavor in that initial little sip, but try it again. And I hate to tell you, but this will not happen with this beer.
While I dive in for a taste of this liquid crap, I'd like to explain NBC University. MBC stands for Mandatory Beer Chug. It speaks for itself and is a great way to waste a perfect beer. While fun to practice for no reason whatsoever, its real significance comes from when you or someone just finished dealing with some shit. It's sometimes nice to just down a beer, enjoy the feeling, and move on. The saying has been popularized by Homebrew for Life, and you can get the t-shirt on their merch site linked in the comments below.
Yeah, even though this thing comes in at about 4% alcohol, I'm really not getting any sort of maltiness out of it. It's really just kind of bad beer. I should have done it a little bit differently. Maybe should have done it without being in a rush to get it done, but guess what? I will tackle this challenge again. This beer style, or not style, but this beer all grain method, I will give it another shot, and maybe I'll actually use fresh hops, figure out my ratios a little better with the hops, and possibly not try for the raw batch. I'll just actually go for a boil, maybe get a little bit bigger pot, and just do it a super easy one. But yeah, I really have no flavor other than hop bitterness. Could almost maybe pass for some sort of hop water, but there still is that little bit of acidy sweetness in there that I don't even really know what the off flavor is for that, but it's just not a great beer, so we're gonna pass on the MBC. Well, hopefully I didn't waste your time. I gave you an idea a little bit about something you can do with with just some real simple equipment to at least try some sort of all grain brewing. I'm gonna try this again. We'll call this failed project number 1, because hopefully I didn't waste your time, but I may have. Yeah, sorry. Later. Oh, you're still not gone yet. Some of the things I forgot to mention is what I could have done better in this batch. Obviously you saw that I added the yeast with a little bit too much heat on the wort still. Obviously you want to cool that down. The stressed yeast probably caused some of the bad flavors in it, if not all of the bad flavors in it. And another thing I noticed is that I didn't talk about the fact that it did attenuate down to 1.000, so that would make it kind of like a brute or something like that, and that would be one of the explanations, I guess, why I didn't get much body to the beer. But anyway, yeah, just brew it a little better. Make sure you cool down the wort, and I think this process will work. But again, I will try it again some other time. Later.